This
Mind is
conference will now be recorded.
how CMDB and asset management is interrelated or how they are linked. Again, this is part of the base platform. Uh, but yeah, before I go ahead with that, that is the first part I have. And ultimately, at the end of the session, we'll definitely have a Q&A, and I'll give a short idea about what will be the agenda of our class. So we would be covering discovery, service mapping, and event management as part of the training or the ITOM one. But yeah, to just start with, I would like to take the participants' expectations or what exactly. Yeah, I think there's a lot. We have a couple of participants, but yeah, just let me know if you're comfortable with me giving a demo around the topic on CMDB. So what I'm going to talk is the life cycle of a particular CI. What happens? What what is the life cycle of it? What is going to be happening in the system in ServiceNow in the backend, and how are a CI and an asset related. So this is the topic I have in mind for the demo session. So again, this will be there. I don't think so there is any prior knowledge or something needed for this. But yeah, if any one of you have a difficulty in that, do let me know. We can think of a different logic, different topic to discuss. And then probably once we're done with that, we'll definitely go ahead with the Q&A, and we'll get all your questions answered. So I hope everyone is fine with that topic, but I think it'll be better if I get a yes or no from a couple of people so that I can go ahead and showcase a demo of it.
Yep. Sounds good.
Yes, you can proceed.
Okay. Okay. Great. Uh, Thanks, Stan. So yeah, to start or to begin with, first we need to understand why a customer needs this. What is the benefit of doing a CMDB setup, or what exactly happens in the backend? How it is going to benefit them. So we need to get that point before going into technical terms. So to start with, let's take up organization which is just starting up. It has around, let's say, 10 employees that are about to join. So when there are 10 employees that are about to join, I need to have uh, procure some laptops for them so that I can buy and keep it ready by the time they join. So as an organization, what I will do is I'll let's assume that I have a service system in place. I'll create a service request. So ideally, what if you see here again, service request, it is some way or the other it is relating to the CI. CI is a configuration item. That is what we are talking here is a laptop for the 10 employees. So I go ahead, raise a service request saying that I have new hires joining. I need 10 laptops for them. So that is my service request. Let's assume that I'm an HR there, and I make that request on behalf of those 10 employees. So what happens in that service request workflow? First, it will go and check if these laptops are available in the inventory or in any one of the stock rooms. Again, all these is capable of happening in the workflows in the backend system in ServiceNow. And assuming that there are no laptops in the inventory, what happens is we can make an integration there. That integration, what it is capable of doing is it can go ahead and place an order in any one of the vendors who can do a procurement order for us, who can purchase those 10 laptops and give it to us. So I can make an integration there. I can get the purchase order number and all those and just keep it in the task, in the request. So once it has been procured, let's say these laptops are in the inventory. And once it's in the inventory, it is available for me as an HR to assign those laptops to all the 10 employees. So if you understand until this point, we've been saying it only as CI, but the fact is it is called as an asset until or unless the employees have their laptops in hand and start working for the company's purpose. So why is there a difference? Why it is called an asset before it is given to a employee, and why it is called a CI? So this is the difference we should understand. So when we call it as an asset, so textbook definitions are, it goes this way. Asset is something that will have financial aspects. So far, whatever that we have discussed, we have just procured the laptop, which means ultimately it has some financial aspect. Again, another textbook definition of CI, it holds the technical attributes. So when I open a CI, I mostly see information such as RAM values, what is the operating system in it. So all those. But what exactly, how we can differentiate them is, until or unless a particular uh, entity becomes operational, we call that as a CI. So if it is not operational, it is called as an asset. So this is the same scenario what happened. So I procured a laptop, I kept it in my inventory room. It is not operational, it is just sitting there idle. So until that point, it falls into the asset management life cycle. And once an employee comes, joins an organization and assign those laptops to them, at that point the service request will be closed, and then the laptop will be assigned. So ultimately what happens here in the backend platform is, asset and CI are kept in sync out of the box. We are not going to do anything. It is all taken care in the I'll shortly show you how that is happening. But to be precise, both, there will be two records for a particular entity. Here we have been talking about a laptop. So if we see, we can see a similar record in the asset table and a similar record in the CMDB table. Asset table record will hold all the financial aspect, that's the textbook definition, and CMDB table, the particular CI will hold all the technical attributes. The actual thing is, until or unless it becomes operational, a particular entity, we call it as a asset. Once it becomes operational, it is called as a CI. So this is the basic difference between these two, and why again this is needed, or what exactly happens is, end of the day, all these needs to be available for a particular person who needs, for example, let's say a support engineer. So now what will happen is, this CMDB is again tightly coupled into the other tables or other modules in ServiceNow. A quick example for space of service request. Now let's say my keyboard is not working and I'm one of those employees. My keyboard is not working, so what will I do? I'll create a case, or I'll create an incident. So against what? Against my laptop. So only to an operational or a functional device or an entity, I can go ahead and create a task related ticket for it. So let's assume that incident has been raised, or a change, I need a change of RAM, or let's say a problem. All those are tightly coupled into the platform. And what else can we do here? Let's assume that the employee is about to leave an organization. So he returns a laptop. So once he returns the laptop, what happens next is, it goes back into the inventory for a next employee who joins, or it can be leased, uh, or deprecated. It can just go non-operational. So a lot of things, depending upon the organization's policy, it can be taken care of. But it's tightly coupled with the platform on various other modules. This is just a couple of examples. There are a lot of more. We can talk about GRC, SecOps, everything, every then and there, whatever modules we discuss, the CMDB is interrelated. One quick example that I can show is, I performed a discovery, and what exactly happens is, whenever a particular CI is getting discovered, an asset is also created automatically. So the platform is taking care of that. So this is the first time, first status of the discovery. It says it has created a CI. I'm just opening this particular CI, and what I'll be able to see is an asset also getting created for it automatically. So this is one example for a CI where we will be seeing all the technical attributes, things like OS versions, and running processes, what are softwares installed in it, serial numbers, and we also have a reference to asset. So this record I did not create, and again this is as part of discovery. I discovered a laptop, and when it is discovered, it also creates a set record for it. But again, these are tightly coupled with the platform. All these are taken care with the help of a couple of business rules and a scripting tool. Again, if we see this particular record, we'll be seeing mostly things related to financial aspects. So what is the financial value? How are we going to dispose it? What is the depreciation value for it? And all those. So I'm not going to go in detail. I'll just quickly show a couple of scripts and places where the sync between the CI and an asset is handled. So one quick thing is a simple business rule here: create asset on insert. So this I open it in the CMDB table. So similarly, if I open it in an asset table, even when we are creating an asset can also create a CI. So it is not just during discovery that CIs can create asset, it is vice versa. So if we see, I'm right now in the asset table. There is one more business rule that says create an CI on insert of an asset. So these two are from different tables. It's pretty much straightforward. And this is a scripted load because both the time. Yeah, sorry, was there a question? Okay. There is a specific condition for it. It just says if there is already a CI and asset relationship available, then just don't do this because there is already a record, or else there's a specific condition. Here we can see for a consumable, don't create a CI. For a license, don't create a CI. And it also has some specific stuff statuses that it should not have. So certain conditions it should meet, vice versa, even for the create asset. So yeah, it does not this particular scripting code, it's for everything related to asset and CI. It even synchronizes the data. Asset CI sync also happens here. So there's one more here, the asset and CI synchronizer. So this is responsible for keeping the data between an asset and CI in sync. So what data? Statuses, the names, because all these are common between both the records. So just to do and keep both of them in sync for let's say next set of purposes that are interrelated in the different modules and services. One quick example: if I'm going to keep a CI non-operational, then a certain state in the asset also need to be changed so that the inventory management or the asset management will know that this asset is available to be utilized for next set of employees. So certain just one quick scenario here, but there may be a lot. There is a lot. So to do that, this particular script is going to happen. But yeah, we are not going to go in detail. This is just to show you one quick overview about it. And for people who are new or who are just seeing script here to a level like this for the first time, do not fret. I'll make sure that we will be doing in a way that we start with basics, you understand in a way, and then we'll go a little bit towards complex things. But to a level, what we would be doing as part of item training regarding discovery, service mapping, and event management, we are going to just touch the surface, make sure that you guys are so familiar with the basics, so that at least you know, even though a couple of scenarios, there's a lot of scenario which keeps coming each and every day, that is a new, even I'm learning, I keep learning, it keeps coming new. So I'll make sure that you guys are aware to a level that if something goes wrong, you'll know where to go and look. So we will be mostly touching the basics of everything, and then we'll slowly go to a level that intermediate knowledge will definitely be shared. So yeah, this is a quick example or a demo that I had. Uh, so with respect to this, if there are any questions, we can definitely discuss, and then we can switch on to a Q&A session where we can discuss about any general queries or anything. And I can quickly share the agenda also, what we would be doing as part of our training. So yeah, this is all I have on the demo. If you guys are curious to see some other topic, I can quickly give you an overview. We can discuss. But yeah, before we go there, any quick questions on this? If there are, we'll discuss. If there are no questions, you guys are free to open up or shoot out any questions or any queries that you have in mind regarding this training.
Hi, I just want to check that there is a field skip sync in asset and CI. So, what is the role of this field?
So sync. Uh, sorry, I didn't get you.
Skip sync in asset and CI both have a field named skip sync, and because of that field, when it is true, there are some time that sync is not happening. So, I
Yeah,
just want to, yeah.
yeah. So if I'm not wrong, skip sync is mostly used in the update set scenario, whether to capture it or not.
No,
I
it is out of box field. Can you check? Can you go to asset table and check all the dictionary?
yeah,
You
sure.
can find a note on it that it is restricting the loop between CI and asset.
Sorry, it is doing what?
Restricting the loops between CI and asset synchronization.
Okay.
Type skip sync.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the question on this?
How did because this is a out of box field, so when the value is becoming true, I just want to check that because I have figured it out, but I didn't get any answer.
Okay.
How did this field work?
Okay. So yeah, even I'll have to check. The only thing that I can see is by default, mostly this particular field will be false.
Yeah,
And
as per you have said that there is a synchronization between asset and CI. So there is a business rule when we change the state of asset, the CI state is also changed. In that business rule, they have changed it to false again. But when it becoming true, that is the question.
so it should be set in false. I think most of the scenarios where I see this going through is something again. This is used to check in the backend scripts. Most of the scenario just to avoid hitting it in a loop, just as you said. So it
What loop?
I think
Yeah.
for a recursion. So let's say if there is an update made in uh, CI, then a relevant asset has to be updated. So in that case, what happens is there is a synchronization between an asset and a CI also. So if I make a change or do something in an asset, again, that needs to go and reflect back into the CI. But this is not the scenario. If that is going to happen, then it means that it is going to be in a recursion.
Okay. So like if we have changed the asset state to in use, and then we change to retired, and then again we change asset state to in use, then it is a recursion, and then the skip sync will be intro.
Yeah, no, it will most probably, it just checks the sync. It just checks this particular field. If it is false, it's gonna make sure that okay, this is false. I'm not gonna create any recursion here.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Continue.
Yeah. Okay. I'm open for questions.
So can you just give us exactly, what is going to be covered? I know you said discovery, service mapping. What else?
Event management also, but yeah, I will definitely. So that is what I have next in my agenda. So probably we'll discuss that. But before I go there, if there aren't any more questions, I can discuss about the agenda.
Okay.
When you say CMDB, so it's like you will be helping us. What are the steps involved in?
Sorry, I cannot hear you clearly. Can you be a little louder?
Yeah, is it audible now?
Yeah, it's much better.
Okay, when you say CMDB, are you going to help us with implementation of a CMDB or how it is? Because
Okay. Yeah.
exclusively I am looking at, if at all I wanted to implement a CMDB, then what should I be looking into?
Yeah, sure. So let me do this. I'll share what we'll be covering as part of our agenda. And again, our agenda is not fixed. It is, we will make sure that it fits into what you are looking for. So if you need something which is not covered as part of the agenda, we'll see if that can be squeezed into the agenda, and we'll try to add that upon during our training sessions. So let me quickly share my agenda, but it's not something that is said that okay, this is what is said in the agenda and we are going to just cover that. We'll make sure that as much as possible, if that's included, we'll have this agenda flexible. Just yeah, that's fine. So yeah, so to start with, the modules that we will be covering as part of this training is discovery, service mapping, and event management. So to all these three, CMDB forms as a basic. So we just talked about this life cycle. So I may refer to the life cycle in a couple of places when we go ahead for the training session. But first, we will be making sure that we understand how the CMDB works in the base platform. What is CMDB? So we'll be covering that. We'll be talking about some examples on how data comes, or how on a best practice a data should be pushed into ServiceNow. We'll be more focused on an API, that is IRE API. There's a lot that has come up in Paris. I'm yet to finalize that and get it into our sessions. But a couple of things that we will be doing, that we were doing as part of the training, is we'll first discuss on how data should come into CMDB so that it can be consistent, so that there won't be any duplicates, so that it will be it has all best practices being followed. So that is one. We'll be discussing on the health, CMDB health. Again, that's on a quick overview on how to just activate, and after activating, we'll talk about what is a duplicate, how do we handle a duplicate handlings. So first, we are supposed to get comfortable with CMDB. So we'll be covering that part, and we'll be pitching into discovery. So when we go into discovery, after getting comfortable with the CMDB part, we'll be doing a local discovery of other participants' devices or laptops. So once again, how we do that is just set up mid server. So we'll be doing a mid server setup. We'll be discovering other participants' laptop, and out of the box, whatever information that it is let's say not bringing, let's say I need some other additional information, we'll see how we can bring that. Again, that we'll be doing as part of pattern customizations. And talking about patterns, uh, service mapping will be completely functional on pattern. So yeah, once we are done with discovering a participant device, we'll switch on into service mapping. We'll try to map a particular demo application. So as part of our training, again, I have a demo web server and all those things. I'll show you quickly how we can set up that in our local machines and discover it by ourselves. I also have a step-by-step document for that. I'll definitely share those. But yeah, mostly of whatever that we are discussing, we'll definitely have a hands-on. We'll make sure that you have a hands-on experience. And again, as part of service mapping, we'll be mapping the demo application, which we just set it up using a pattern, and we'll make sure how the flow works. But we need to understand what is service mapping. So we'll discuss about all those. Then once we are at a level where we have built a map for our demo application, we'll see how event management will be utilizing this map for real-time monitoring purpose. So we'll just quickly trigger some alerts against the particular application. Again, for alerts, I'll be again using a REST API. I do not have a monitoring tool, so only this part I'll be mostly doing it myself. But I'll give you how I am doing it. I'll definitely say how I'm doing it. You can play around in your own machines. So it's just a REST API call to the em_event table. I just push in events. That event gets converted into alerts, and we'll see on a basic how that can be automated to create an incident and how the process works. How do I process an event and all those. So this is mostly what we'll be covering, mostly all on the basics part, but we'll make sure that everything is uh, discussed, whatever that I have told. So yeah, most probable scenario. Then and there, once we complete our modules, we'll definitely have a complete recap. We'll definitely pause through until everyone completes the lab. When I mean lab, whatever that I have discussed, so discovering your local machine or other participant machine, just to make sure that you are comfortable with the basics. Same goes everywhere. So once we are done with the module, we'll do a quick recap, complete recap of whatever that we have saw, and that will be for a dedicated session, wherein we make sure that it's a checkpoint where we check everybody has done or comfortable with, and then it will be like a query session. So we discuss about the queries, and then we switch on to the next model. And again, it will be it's something that once we are into service mapping, if you have any query, you are open to ask anything that you might have missed in the previous sessions or something. So feel free to post any of your questions. And again, make sure that you get comfortable with whatever that we are discussing, whatever topics that we are talking as part of our lab, whatever we are doing. And during the query session, it's not limited to whatever that we are discussing. If we find some spare time, you guys are free to post me any questions related to ServiceNow. If I know, I'll definitely share some knowledge. And yeah, there are so many new features that came up in Paris. I'm trying to see if there is something that I can incorporate into our training agendas. So one quick thing is about the event management. There is a new monitoring solution provided by ServiceNow. So maybe if we get time, we'll definitely discuss. But yeah, I'm open to any questions, anything. Every day is a learning for me. You guys question me, it'll be something. If I know, I'll definitely share. If not, I'll dive deep into it and I'll get an answer for you. So yeah, that's pretty much it on the agenda, friend. But in case if you guys are looking for anything in specific, do let me know if it is covered. I'll definitely take a note on it. I'll definitely stress or keep more uh, attention to it. But in case if it is not covered, I'll make sure that if it is possible, we'll cover it up in our training sessions. I know there are a lot of participants this time. Uh, Feel free to post in, even if you have missed, you can reach out to our organizers with that. I'll definitely see to your queries, and if possible, we'll bundle it up. But yeah, hope that should give you some insight about what we'll be doing as part of learning. If there are any questions on that or anything specific that you guys are looking for, please feel free to go forward and share your questions.
So one question, what is the prerequisite on this for this class? I mean, is there anything specific that we need to know?
So if I understand correctly, you are asking about the requirements or things to know before doing this?
Yeah, just prerequisites.
Yeah. So from my end, all I need is an Orlando instance and make sure that you have Discovery plugin installed, service mapping installed, and event management installed. So I'll definitely show during the training sessions how we can install all those, because starting couple of session will be on CMDB, which is available as part of the base platform. So you don't need to install anything, just have your instance ready. Make sure it's in Orlando. I'll say why we are not doing Paris yet. There's a little bit of blocker in Paris that does not allow us to set up a MIT server in a local machine. There are ways to overcome it, but that's just going to keep things complicated. So we'll definitely discuss about all the new features or whatever that is been added as part of the Paris feature. But as of now, we are still doing in Orlando. So this is a prerequisite or a requirement that I would say.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's good. But as far as knowledge prerequisite, I mean, is there something that, do we need to know a lot about business rules, script include, or what?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that's a good question actually. To start with, I would say just be familiar with the ServiceNow platform. So we are not going to deal with complex scripts that I showed. We are not going to write all those. We are going to see how efficient ServiceNow is, that makes the low code, no code environment so easy to work on the ITOM platform. The only thing that you may feel difficult working on is to understand how it works. So on a coding basis or on a level that if you ask me, whatever that we are going to discuss, it can be learned by anyone. So we are not going to go in detail. I'll definitely, but yeah, once there, again, these are all basics. To go or work on a project, again, it comes with practice. I'll definitely guide you guys through on what all other things that you need to do next and things. But to attend this training, I would say even a beginner, ServiceNow beginner, who just knows what is ServiceNow, can grasp things for the training.
So what about the person who don't have knowledge on ServiceNow? Can the person take this?
It's gonna be a little difficult, I would say, because a couple of things that we will be doing is just starting with ServiceNow or basics is definitely needed on how to navigate things. So things like, let's say, if I say you need to go to a dashboard or a home page, you just need to know, okay, what is a home page? What is going to do? What is a dashboard? Okay, dashboard, I'm going to see the reports. So I may not go in detail to that, but a person should at least know how to navigate through the system so that he or she at least knows, okay, this is what ServiceNow is doing. And again, why that is, to start with, I wouldn't also recommend directly going with ITOM, because someone need whoever is focused on it should at least have some experience, or let's say at least go for the developer portal and do the learning plans on new to ServiceNow, so that you get accustomed, because there may come a scenario where a customer requirement may indulge between an ITSM and an ITOM environment on both the modules. That time, it will be difficult to understand what they are trying to say. And even if it is possible, a person who is hearing through the requirement may not be able to give a proper judgment if it is doable or not. It may be doable, but yeah, since the platform knowledge is not there, it will be difficult to provide that. But yeah, on a basis, to be frank, if a newbie tries, if someone that does not know ServiceNow, who wants to come and attend this training, they'll definitely, it'll definitely be fruitful for them. But my honest opinion would be to at least do the developer portal basics training, or we have trainers who can do basic training, basic ServiceNow training also.
Okay, why I'm asking this question is like from last 4 years I'm working as a ServiceNow tester. So that's
Okay.
what just I wanted to learn.
Yeah, as long as you know what ServiceNow is, you should be comfortable with Atmatics training.
So how about the opportunities outside on this particular module currently? What's the trend?
Yeah, I personally see there are people coming up now. So comparatively, 2 years back, if I must say, there were around 10 in 100 who know ITOM. 100 people know ServiceNow and other things, just ITSM, just ticketing, but only 10 people know. That is 2 years back scenario. Now, if I'm seeing, I would say there is a phenomenal increase in that. I would say 30 and 100 know what is ITOM and know how to work on it, because it's little easy. The only thing that is difficult is to understand how it works. And on an opportunity level, uh, from my, again, this is my experience, or I would say what I'm seeing it in the market. Companies who come new, they start with ITOM. That's a phase 1 of the project, and if it goes in multiple phases, that's fine. But end of the day, assuming that they are going to do an operation management in ServiceNow, that will come on a later part. So any organization that starts with ServiceNow will definitely have ITOM in between, and then they may go with GRC and SecOps. So still, I see the company growing in a phenomenal level. There are a lot of new customers that are requesting to have ServiceNow as a platform. So as they go by, I still see just looking at the reports, I see 30 percentage as a year-by-year growth for the company. So I would say there should be still a lot of opportunities out there. A company who has just bought ServiceNow last year should be focusing on having ITOM or all the other aspects of ServiceNow that can be implemented into. So on
So,
that question,
this
I
training, so are you going to cover real-time scenarios, any scenarios end to end, or you're going to cover only the base like the functionality of ITOM?
Yeah, we will be discussing about mostly on the basics one. On a real-time scenario, I am going to discuss a couple of blockers that I have faced when I was doing the project. So I'll try to replicate that. One or two I can, not many, because as I said, as the technology is growing, there are new, every day there's a new error coming up. So there is no say to it that we have only 100 set of limited errors. And if I just write a definition for all the 100, even if you go and try, all 100 may fail. So every day a new issue keeps coming up. So whatever that I have faced, I'll try to replicate one or two. We'll definitely see that because most of the training sessions usually it fails up, throwing some error. We'll try to debug those. When we do that, I'll try to discuss on a couple of roadblocks that I have met when I was doing a project on these particular modules. So yes, some real-time scenarios we will discuss, and whatever, let's say if any one of our participant is also working on any ITOM projects, they can share their experience. Even if they have any live project questions, they can post it here. If any other knows, we can discuss about it. If I know, I'll be more than happy to give an answer to it.
Okay. Yeah.
One
That's great.
question,
Yeah,
like,
thank you.
will you be showing us like how to establish connections manually after creating the service maps? Like if some CIs are not discoverable or some connections are not established, those things.
Yeah, we will definitely be doing that. What we are doing is a custom application which does not have a connection. We are going to do a setup where we make it dynamic. So I'll definitely talk about that logic. It was a major roadblock in one of our project, and we thought of a way how we can make it dynamic. So yeah, that's actually an interesting topic to discuss, and I do have it in my agenda.
Okay, okay. Because actually, like I'm currently completely new to ServiceNow, and the first module I've been assigned with is ITOM. So like when the things are getting discovered well, the service nodes are getting created well and fair enough. But I'm facing some blocks while doing those connections. That's why I asked. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
also like you will be showing like how to fix the errors and all, like after the discovery and all, like.
yeah. Couple of errors we will definitely see. Couple of errors that will and definitely come up. I'll try to have those scenarios set up, but we'll discuss because I don't have a live environment that I can show. Whatever that we have, we are doing it in the local machines. Even uh, ever since couple of months later, even the servers has been, I would say, uh, has been blocked out. I don't know. I'm still working out on a way where I can post a server where all the participants can use. But if that is available, anytime that we start the training, we'll be doing that. But if not, we'll be doing it in our own local machines. Whatever roadblocks that we have, I'll talk about that. Whatever errors we get, we'll try to fix that. And whatever errors you have in mind, you have seen, we'll discuss about that. And my project experience that I'll also try to share. That is specifically on errors.
One more question. Is there a prerequisite has been add on after New York version in Discovery?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Is there any prerequisite has been add on after New York version in Discovery?
Um, on a prerequisite after New York, for mid-server, there is. For discovery, to be specific, I don't think so. There isn't any. It's the same. I would say it's the same.
Okay.
On a mid-server, yes, mid-server, there are phenomenal changes. In after New York, even after Orlando, there is a lot of changes on a mid-server.
Prerequisite side has been changes from mid server as well, or like it has to be same only for 443 port and these things. Access, access and install.service app and now accessibilities
Yeah,
to
yes.
auto.
Yeah, all those remain same. Things that have changed or improved, I would say, is on security purposes. So I believe in Orlando they added the certificate validation. If I recollect correctly, it's called OSCP. OSCP certificate validation is happening while we install the mid server just to make sure that the server is secure. And I believe in Paris, to be precise, they added a service account validation also. So when we install a mid server, we are not just providing the mid server user, we are supposed to provide the service account username and password. Until or unless that is correct, it will not allow you to install, and that is one of the blocker uh, which makes us not use it in a local machine. Yeah, I believe that will be a more interesting topic to discuss during a training, but yeah, still a good point.
One more thing. Is there any dependency on service mapping or event management? Like we can directly go through for the other module, or we have to go for discovery, then service mapping, then event management? Is there any kind of dependency for this flow, or we can directly go for event management as well?
Yeah, discovery is a definite dependency for
Okay.
service mapping and event management. Again, how they manage the CMDB is up to a customer. So if they have a proper CMDB, even discovery is not needed. But assuming that it's going to be ITOM, ServiceNow implementation, and for event management, to have the CIs in place in CMDB, we need discovery. Service mapping is dependent on discovery too, but event management is not dependent on service mapping. It's only dependent
No,
on.
what I'm asking is exactly my question is like suppose we are managing CMDB through manually. We are not using discovery or we are not using any type of automation or like integration part on that. So we are managing like manually phases and that it will be accurate. So we can directly implement service mapping. Is it possible?
Um, yeah, there it will not work. Service mapping is dependent on discovery. So let's say when I try to trigger a particular uh, map for a particular application, what service now service mapping will try to do is first check in the CMDB if a particular CI is available or not. Let's assume that it is still available. What service mapping will do is service mapping will try to see if all the information, things related to application and all those are available. So one quick example, I think it should be there. So until or unless you have a proper CMDB that is maintained as good as how uh, the the ServiceNow Discovery brings, you should be able to do, but there's a lot of catch. One quick thing is this particular discovery for this particular CI. Let's say that I'm trying and custom applications installed in this particular laptop, and you see all these relationships. These are either way one brought up by discovery and then from service map. So you should have a proper relationship maintained in case if you're not using discovery. And once you have all these properly find, you should still see some options to do, but I wouldn't recommend service mapping without discovery. I don't think so it's even possible.
One more thing, the way we are using discovery functionality to for update the or accuracy of the CMDB, and for service mapping we are going for application. I don't have any idea on service mapping and event management, so I just want to know what actually these two modules will work. Like what we can get it from these two. Like from the help of discovery, we can get accuracy of CI and all these things. CMDB has to be up to date, and all these things will work. So service mapping is for application or some other
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, I can answer that. So discovery, just to be precise, we are trying to discover the devices. So one quick example, I can say a laptop, a Windows server, a Linux server. What service mapping is doing is assume that your organization has a SharePoint application in place. So for an organization, SharePoint, they will not keep it in cloud of their own environment because SharePoint will hold all sensitive information. So as an
Sorry?
organization, what I will request is the SharePoint people to come and install SharePoint in my data center or in my cloud server, because the data in the SharePoint should be available inside my network because it may have sensitive information. So what the SharePoint or Microsoft people who do is they come into our network, they set up the application, and the application that they set up could be on a multiple Windows server because you need a backup server for your data. And at the same time, it connects, it may not always have only database. It will have a web interface. So for a web interface, you need a web server. And the web server, database server will be a different machine. It may not be a same machine. And the web interface will again have a load balancer because assuming it's a large scale in the industry, it will have 100,000 employees. If all 100,000 employees try to access it, it will break. So there will be a load balancer, which will again be a different Windows or Linux machine. So there are multiple devices, if you see, that are related here. Discovery can bring information regarding one device and every related information about that device, but it cannot bring the relationship of the data flow of it. So what happens if I want to access the application of a SharePoint? I hit the URL, let's say open SharePoint, and show my uploads. So what will happen? Let's say if I just do that, if I try to access that, it will go to the load balancer. So that is where the data flow is starting. It will go to the load balancer. Load balancer will try to share the load between multiple web servers. So it will see whichever web server is having a less traffic. It will send it to that web server, and that web server again, it will try to understand whatever query is. And after understanding a query, it will send to the database to fetch the data. Again, that will be on a different database. So this is a flow having between different devices, which we are trying to achieve with the help of service mapping. And again, what happens is once I have the flow ready, it will automatically move into the event management dashboard. So once it's on the event management dashboard, whenever there is an alert coming against a particular database, If that database is used in a different application, then the event management dashboard will show that there are two applications impacted. The event management dashboard will even calculate the impact. It will show you that, okay, these many servers or services are impacted. And just looking at the map, the particular incident management team will come to know that, okay, this is where the issue is. I do not have to debug through the entire application to find the root cause. Just by looking at the map, I know, okay, the issue is on the database. I'll directly log into the database server and fix the issue. So there's a lot of things going in the backend, but ultimately saying this is what the end solution that a customer will look forward. So he wants to have a data flow of his application with different devices, have it as an application map, push it to the event management dashboard, and monitoring it in the real-time basis.
Okay, it means going troubleshoot for the whole server, just directly we know where the exact root cause it will be. And
Exactly,
we can directly
and
work
it
on
has
that.
impact analysis. So it will also give you, okay, if a particular database server is being used not just by SharePoint, but also by some custom application, it will say that application is also impacted.
Okay, so in this demo, can you show for one at least service mapping also application? Service mapping application.
Yes, I think I can show. So if you see in a service map, I built a sample application. I'm just gonna go view map directly. It'll show a web server and a database, the connectivity which we just talked it on overview. And again, I opened it from service map. So you see there is a web server which is passing data to the MySQL server. So to build a map, you should know the data flow. And this is as part of service map. And I made this map operational. Once you make this map operational, it will automatically go into the operator workspace. So agent intelligence and operator workspace are the two things which people in the event monitoring team should always focus on to see what is happening to their applications. So again, this is a new feature that has been added into the Orlando. If we look it into the New York, it will be a dashboard, a straightforward dashboard. But yeah, what happens is once I make this particular map as operational, I'm saying that this particular application is operational. So when this application is operational, only at that point of time it can be monitored. So at that point of time, what happens is it goes into the it automatically goes. I'll not be doing anything. So it will just show me a list of all the application services. Again, this is a demo data, but to the right side corner, if you see, this is a sample app that I just built it for the demo purpose. I can open it from here and it'll show me the service view of it. Again, a monitoring view of it. So it'll just open up the same map, but in a different view. So it says it's okay.
Is it possible to implement service mapping in our like local machine or something like that? Like how we are trying to implement discovery
Yes,
in our local.
exactly. We can do it. This is a local machine. I did it in my personal laptop. I was doing with a self-hosted cloud environment with the servers, but ever since lockdown, there's been a lot of hiccup, a lot of price hike, and all those things are happening. I'm trying to figure out a way, but if I got a chance, we'll definitely do it in a self-hosted server, my own cloud. But I still found a way where we can do it in a local machine. This is my own laptop that you're seeing right now. Again, it's a dummy application which I've installed or set up. It's just 10-15 minutes of work, which I'll definitely showcase, or even we can spend a session for it on how to set it up to make sure that we build a map in our local machine to a level where we build a map and then push it to the event. Again, it automatically goes into the operator workspace that we are seeing here. And I'll try my best to even showcase an event tag to this application and see how it works. So yes, to simply put, we can do it in our local machines. It's pretty much doable.
So going back to the dependencies, and I don't know anything about discovery or service mapping, I'm very new to that. But does that mean that event management is dependent on service mapping, or you don't can it work without service mapping and directly only on the devices that have been discovered through discovery?
Yeah, it can work with devices that are just discovered with discovery. Service mapping is just, I would say, a tool that helps find a root cause better on monitoring an application. So event management may not always monitor an application. If, let's say, an organization is mostly concerned about just a server that they have, assuming that they are a infrastructure service provider, they only want if my server is up or down. So to do that, I don't need a service map. I can just
Right.
do. I'll be happy with just discovery and event management doing a real-time monitoring for it. So this is not directly dependent, but service mapping is dependent on discovery.
Right. Okay. Because my organization, we just had partners come in and implement, and they have only implemented discovery and event management. And so I'm trying to, just understand the entire configuration that they have done. That's my reason for taking this class.
If we are using event management,
Yes.
if you're using event management, like after discovery, there's no we are not going for service mapping, and then I guess probably we can remove the tools that we have set up or organization will have set up for monitoring purpose only, I guess.
No, it is possible from Paris with a new module or a tool, I would say, that ServiceNow has developed. Event management that we are seeing here, it is till Orlando. You need a event monitoring tool to send an event to ServiceNow. The same is going to happen even in Paris, but in Paris, ServiceNow has its own homegrown, home-built application. I would say a different module that's called Agent Client Collector, something similar to SolarWinds, Nagios. There are a lot of other tools
Okay.
that can do event monitoring. Those monitoring solutions should send an event to ServiceNow, and that is what why we have event management. We are going to manage those events, create an alert, tag it to a particular application service, and then see if there's a need for incident to it. We can create an incident. So that is what we'll be doing it in our class. Again, that is still Orlando. From New York, it's still from Paris. This is still there, but there is an additional homegrown application similar to SolarWinds or Nagios that ServiceNow has built. People can, that is, customers can utilize that, and at that scenario, they can go and deprecate the other monitoring tools. But still, I don't think so. I would say it's still in a pilot phase. Even I never got a chance to work on it. I don't know how efficient that can be when we are comparing with tools that are decade old, that are in the
I
monitoring.
I was working previously on like different monitoring tool, and there is one control M tool, and recently I have get in touch with that MoveSoft tool as well. I am not sure
Yeah.
whether you know the tool. So that is the singularity function. If I am comparing to MoveSoft, that is also like alert will come and it will convert into situations, and we will got situations to work on it. And some of
Yeah.
the monitoring or some of the alerts will be compressed, and it will show only the like not. It will remove automatically duplicacy and all these things will work on that case.
Yeah. And there's a lot we can do similarly in ServiceNow's event management also. Something similar, alert correlation. That's something that correlates alerts from multiple monitoring tools. Make sure that it's a parent event or it's something like a parent or a child relationship can be made for it. But yeah, I would say we are well past our schedule. But if there are any final questions, I think I can take a couple. Okay, I don't have anything much in my hand to discuss. So I would say if there are any more queries or questions related to anything, feel free to reach out to organizers. They will definitely help you out with whatever queries you have. And that said, thank you all for joining. Hope to see you in our upcoming batches. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.